All right, go ahead and open up the door to the Zoom, if you would, please, to my co-host. I'm going to turn off that wonderfully annoying sound so that as all of you are coming in, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so glad to have you all here with us today on a Q&A with Pharmacist Ben Fuchs and myself, Becca Dukes. This program is being brought to you by dailywithdoc.com, and it is a once-a-month program that is not always on the same day. So you want to make sure that you go to our website and get signed up for our newsletter so that you can receive notifications and announcements of when our programming is going to happen with the amazing Pharmacist Ben Fuchs. So if you were invited by somebody specific, we want to make sure that you get back with them and thank them for inviting you to this program, because folks, you're in for a treat when it comes to wellness and gaining knowledge in a way that is understandable from somebody who has experience. Because Pharmacist Ben Fuchs is a nutritional pharmacist. He specializes in nutritional supplementation, and where other healthcare practitioners use toxic pharmaceuticals, even though he's a pharmacist, folks, he looks at the human body as a whole, a healing, regenerating system that is divinely designed to be able to use itself as it is regenerating moment by moment. But it has to have that nutrition, folks. It has to have that fuel to regenerate. And I am very honored to be able to present to you, bring to you, Pharmacist Ben Fuchs. Pharmacist Ben, welcome to Q&A with Pharmacist Ben and Becca.
Well, thank you, Becca. Nice to see you. Am I centered?
Yes, you're centered.
My chin where it should be. My forehead where it should be.
Hey, yeah. We can see your whole face.
Yeah, I want to get that chin in there. I want to make sure that chin is showing. Is it chin?
Well, no. See, Dr. Wallach, some people read lip. I mean, oh my goodness.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Listening. So Dr. Wallach, thank you so much for joining us and listening, as you are always researching. And today's program is about something we've had questions about on another program. So I want to make sure that we have from somebody who is knowledgeable and knows about more digestive things like FOD and SIBO. So yeah, but what I was going to say is we have some people that read lips, Pharmacist Ben. So if you're cut off, they can't read
okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I got you. Oh, we got Dr. Wallach. Is that Dr.
Yes.
Wallach?
Dr. Wallach is here with us.
None of us would be here. None of us would be here without Doc.
That's right.
Doc. Thank you, Dr. Wallach, for everything you do. We're very grateful. I'm personally very grateful. Doc has been incredibly instrumental in my life, in my career, in my my job at Longevity. Thank you so much, Dr. Wallach. So one day I'll tell you guys, if I haven't already told you the story of how I met Doc. It's a really interesting story, but we'll do that on another Ben and Becca episode. So today I want to talk about the digestive system, specifically the intestine. You know, we talk about the digestive system a lot, but the core of the digestive system is the center, which is the small and large intestine. Nonetheless, the small and large intestine are downstream from the other parts of the digestive system. So you got to kind of understand the whole thing. So we're going to talk a little bit about how the whole thing works, and then we'll concentrate on the small and large intestine, but especially the small intestine. So you eat a food, you chew the food. Actually, you think about a food. Digestion begins in the brain. When we think about a food, our digested juices start to be secreted. And just thinking about a lemon, for example, you'll notice that you start to salivate. Not only that, but it's very important that you're in a relaxed state when you're eating. One of the worst things you could do is eat when you're under stress. Eating in the car, eating when you're watching the news, or eating when you're having an argument with somebody, or eating in a business meeting. Anything that causes stress is going to suppress digestive juices, and it's going to inhibit the digestive process. So first of all, there's the whole mental aspect of eating, and that starts with the brain. And so when we talk about the digestive process, we got to remember it begins between our ears, moves on to the mouth. You chew your food. When you chew your food, you macerate, you crush it up. And then as you're crushing it up, enzymes are actually starting the digestive process in your mouth. So you can support the digestive process by actually secreting saliva, amylase, lipase, probably a little protease. These are digestive enzymes that break up starches and fats and sugars. And by chewing well, you're going to reduce the load, the enzymatic load on the rest of the digestive system, the pancreas, specifically on the pancreas, which is a good tip for diabetics. Diabetics, make sure you're chewing your food. You'll reduce the load on the pancreas. You eat the food, you chew the food, it goes down your esophagus, it goes into your stomach. At that point, the digestive process begins in earnest. And not only does the digestive process begin in earnest, but anything that goes wrong in the stomach part of the digestive process is going to affect the small intestine directly. And we're going to talk about that here in just a second. So the main action in the stomach is muscular contractions and the action of enzymes and hydrochloric acid, and they're both important. And in my opinion, we'll talk about this at the end when I'm done talking about this whole digestive process. The ultimate enzymes from longevity are arguably the most important. I don't want to say the most important, but they're among the most important supplements that we carry, because as goes the digestive enzymes and the hydrochloric acid in the stomach, so goes the digestive process downstream. And many people are suffering from acid deficiencies and enzyme deficiencies at the level of the stomach. So the stomach, muscular contractions in the stomach crush up the food, the enzymes, and the acid. And by the way, the acid is required for activating the enzymes. So if you don't have enough stomach acid, you're not going to be activating your enzymes. So acid and enzymes work together to start the continue the digestive process, especially of proteins. Then it's on to the intestine. And right at the point where the stomach meets the intestine is possibly, arguably anyway, the most critical part of the digestive process. And I'll tell you why. As the food is being crushed up in the stomach, it's becoming acidified, hopefully, if you have enough stomach acid. And that acid mush that is released from the stomach or dropped into the stomach in the intestine is very important for the continuance of the digestive process. And by the way, that food is not called food anymore. It's called chyme, C-H-Y-M-E. And this chyme, this acid mush chyme, the soupy mass that drops into the intestine from the stomach, triggers the secretion of bile and pancreatic enzymes. It's really, really, really important what happens at this point. So just picture the chyme, the soupy mass that used to be food, dropping into the intestine from the stomach, initiates the secretion. The acid actually triggers the secretion of bile and pancreatic enzymes for the further digestion and ultimate absorption of nutrients at the level of the intestine. If the chyme is not acidic because we don't have enough stomach acid, and this is a very common condition called hypochlorhydria or achlorhydria, meaning low hydrochloric acid or no hydrochloric acid. It's very, very common. If that does not occur, bile will not hit that chyme and pancreatic enzymes will not hit that chyme as efficiently, and you're going to be suffering from all kinds of malabsorption issues and digestive problems downstream. So acidification of the chyme of the food at the level of the stomach so that the chyme can be acid is extremely, extremely important. Now, and there's another reason I'll tell you about in a moment why stomach acid is important. This chyme goes into the small intestine, and if everything is working correctly, which oftentimes it's not, several things happen. First of all, most of the absorption of nutrients, of vitamins and electrolytes, occurs in the small intestine. Most of the absorption. Now, there's some that occurs later on in the large intestine, but the vast majority of the absorption of nutrients occurs at the level of the small intestine. If there's anything that's going wrong with the small intestine or with the stomach, that nutrient absorption will not occur, and you're going to be in big trouble in terms of malnutrition. You'll be functionally starving. Not only that, but it gets even worse. I'll tell you about here in a second. If, as the food is passing through, the nutrients are being absorbed, and fiber from that food is composed, most food anyway, if it's not meat, is composed of fiber. Vegetable foods and fruits and vegetables and such are composed of fiber as well as nutrients. The fiber in that food is acted upon by bacteria, which will actually eat that fiber and release nutrients, specifically fats, and specifically fats that are important for the health of the intestine. So the nutrients are being absorbed in the small intestine. Fiber is being acted upon by bacteria in the small intestine, and that bacteria, the fiber is being turned into what are called short chain fats. And there's specifically one short chain fat that's very important that plays a critical role in the health of the intestine as well as in the health of the brain and neurology. Then, and we'll talk about this in just a second, this whole small intestine, because that's really the core of everything. The food then goes into the large intestine, or what's left of the food, the nutrients and the have been absorbed, hopefully, and the fiber has been acted upon. The remainder goes into the large intestine. There is some absorption of nutrients that takes place in the large intestine. Water is extracted or sucked up from the food in the large intestine, and then what is left over is called stool and excreted out of the body. And that's basically the digestive process in a nutshell. What I want to focus on here in this talk is the small intestine, because the core of the health of the body is very dependent on efficient functioning of the small intestine for a couple of reasons. Number one, we talked about malabsorption of nutrients. So if there's the small intestine is not functioning as it should, you're not going to be absorbing your nutrients, and you're going to be functionally starving, especially of the B vitamins and especially of electrolytes, and also to a certain extent of fats, although those are processed a little bit differently. What I'm going to say now is critical for everybody who's dealing with a health challenge or helping somebody deal with a health challenge to understand. Almost every single health issue you can name, particularly autoimmune diseases, skin diseases, reproductive diseases, neurological and cognitive issues, dysglycemia, messed up blood sugar, diabetes or dysglycemia, digestive conditions, any health challenge that involves the intestine, even cancer and heart disease, which are the two leading causes of death, can be caused by problems at the level of the small intestine. That's so important to understand, because if you try to deal with your autoimmune issue, if you try to deal with your reproductive issue, if you try to deal with your neurological or movement disorder issue, etc., without working on the small intestine, you're doomed to fail. But on the other hand, conversely, if you work at that level, almost every other health challenge you could name will begin to resolve itself. So the small intestine is the crux, the key to understanding how to deal with all chronic degenerative diseases, which make up about 80% of our health challenges. This is not an assertion. This is not hippy-dippy organic Ben from Boulder, Colorado. This is hardcore biology. If you don't work at the level of the small intestine, you're going to be doomed to fail at treating all your other health challenges. Conversely, you can start to relieve everything else by working at the level of the small intestine. So we talked about malabsorption. So clearly and obviously, if you have malabsorption, you're not going to be able to heal. If you're not getting your B vitamins, if you're not getting your electrolytes, if you're not getting your fatty vitamins, etc., you're not going to be able to heal. So obviously malabsorption is a problem, but it's worse than that if you have small intestinal problems. At the level of the small intestine, you guys have all heard of probiotics and good bacteria. By now, everybody knows. By the way, 30 years ago, nobody knew about probiotics and good bacteria. Today, everybody talks about them. Bacteria mostly live in the large intestine. There's a reason for that, because if you had a lot of bacteria in the small intestine, you also have a lot of food in the small intestine, the bacteria will overgrow. So nature has set up the system where most of the good bacteria are going to be in the large intestine. because there's not a lot of food in the large intestine. However, these days we have a condition where people have way too much bacteria in their small intestine. The technical name for this condition of too much bacteria in the small intestine is called SIBO. You may have heard of that, small intestine bacterial overgrowth. So in addition to problems at the level of the small intestine that involve malabsorption of nutrients and functional starvation, now we've got another issue, and that's called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Small intestinal bacterial overgrowth can wreak havoc on the body in several ways. First of all, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth can cause problems at the level of the digestive tract, of the small intestine. When you have lots of bacteria in the small intestine, you get bacterial fermentation of foods. Specifically, you get bacterial fermentation of fibers and sugars, especially a group of fibers and sugars called the FODMaps. These FODMaps are a group of sugars. FODMAP stands for fructans, oligosaccharides, F for fructans, it's a type of sugar. O for oligosaccharides, another type of sugar fiber kind of combination. Disaccharides, D for disaccharides, M, lactose, for example. M for monosaccharides, glucose, for example. And P for polyols. Polyols are things like sorbitol and mannitol, things that end with the OL at the end. Sorbitol is well known for causing these kinds of problems. These FODMaps FODMaps foods can be responsible for bloating and gas and abdominal distension and diarrhea and constipation. Pretty much all these digestive complaints people have at the level of the digestive system, sometimes being blamed on gluten and lectins, can be caused by this SIBO condition, which in turn can be caused by excess ingestion of FODMaps. So SIBO can be, intestinal problems can be problematic because they can cause malabsorption of nutrients, leading to functional starvation. It can also cause problems of excessive bacteria in the intestine, leading to the SIBO condition, which can cause bloating and all these digestive symptoms and digestive symptoms. By the way, irritable bowel syndrome symptoms are pretty much the same as SIBO symptoms. So irritable bowel is just a description of what of the symptoms that are caused by small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So you've got abdominal problems, and you've got malabsorption of nutrients. But here's where it gets really bad. This intestinal distress that is the end result of small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO, can cause inflammation at the level of the intestinal wall. When the intestinal wall becomes inflamed, the cells that line the intestinal wall, spread out. When the cells that line the intestinal wall spread out, stuff can get into the blood inappropriately. You've all heard of this condition. It's called leaky gut syndrome. When I talk about stuff leaking out into the blood, I'm talking, number one, bacterial toxins from the bacteria that are in the intestine, and specifically a type of toxin called an LPS, as well as food particles. This is where systemic disease begins. Malabsorption of nutrients is a problem, certainly. It can lead to functional starvation and all kinds of health issues. SIBO is a problem itself because it can lead to all kinds of abdominal problems, diarrhea and constipation and abdominal pain and bloating and gas, etc. But the real big problem that can wreak havoc on the entire body is this leaky gut issue. And when I talk about all autoimmune diseases and reproductive issues and cognitive issues, etc., neurological issues, skin issues, when we talk about its relationship to the intestine, this is what we're talking about. Once bacterial toxins and food particles get into the bloodstream through the leaky gut, which has become leaky because of the small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. I'll tell you why that happens here in a minute. You're off to the chronic disease races. Off to the races. And there is not a single health challenge, including the big ones, diabetes and heart disease and cancer, that are not connected to this condition of leaky gut. That's the bad news. The good news is when you fix it, all your other symptoms will start to resolve. All your other conditions will start to improve. It cuts to the chase, working at the level of the gut. So you got three things going on here. You've got small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or first of all, you got malabsorption of nutrients, you got small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and you've got leaky gut. Now, I haven't even talked about bile. We're not going to get a chance to talk about bile, but let me just say this. The overgrowth of bacteria at the level of the intestine inactivate bile. And bile is responsible for the absorption of fatty nutrients, plus the detoxification of drugs and hormones. So once you have a problem with SIBO, you're also going to have a problem with detoxification, and you're also going to have a problem with the absorption of of fatty nutrients. So we can talk about bile on another Zoom call, because it's just a little bit too complicated at this point. But I want you to understand everything starts here. And the reason I went over this thing with such details, because I want you to understand this is not an assertion. This is biology and physiology, how this all occurs. So what are the causes of this small intestinal bacterial overgrowth that we just talked about? Well, there's three main causes, or two main causes, really. Number one, poor gut motility. That is the movement of food through the small intestine. There are muscles that are responsible for moving the food through the small intestine and the large intestine in a process that's called peristalsis. You may have heard of this. Under conditions of stress, under conditions of the wrong kinds of foods, under conditions of excess ingestion of meat and not enough fiber, and interestingly and fascinatingly, under conditions of eating too regularly, snacking, gut motility will be impaired. When gut motility is facilitated by lack of food, when you don't have food in the system, the movement of food occurs with much more facility. If we're doing the snacking thing, our body doesn't have the opportunity, our intestine doesn't have the opportunity to move as effectively. So reducing your calories, calorie restriction, and intermittent fasting are extremely important for improving motility. And the last thing that I'm going to say about improving gut motility or causing poor motility is something nobody knows about or nobody ever talks about, and that is dysglycemia. Dysglycemia. That's a fancy way of saying messed up blood sugar. Messed up blood sugar. Dys means messed up or dysfunctional. Glyce means sugar. Emia means in the blood. Now, I didn't say diabetes, although diabetes is a type of dysglycemia. The reason I say dysglycemia and not diabetes is because there are many people who have not been pronounced by the doctor, boom, knighted as a diabetic, but their blood sugar is still messed up. Diabetes is a brand name for dysglycemia. I know you guys have heard me say this before. Dysglycemia is like tissues. Diabetes is like Kleenex. You can't say Kleenex because the Kimberly-Clark company owns the name Kleenex. You can't say Kleenex because Kimberly-Clark owns Kleenex. I can't say diabetes because the medical model owns diabetes like Kimberly-Clark owns Kleenex. But I can say dysglycemia because that's just biochemistry. So I always use the term dysglycemia rather than diabetes because many people have not gotten the brand name diabetes, which is measured by a test score, but they still have messed up blood sugar. So messed up blood sugar is a hidden cause of poor gut motility, which in turn is a cause of SIBO, which in turn can be a cause of leaky gut, which in turn can be a cause of autoimmune diseases, Parkinson's disease, movement disorders, cognitive issues, skin problems, etc. All of this is secondary to dysglycemia or following dysglycemia and diabetes. If you heard me talk about the triangle of disease, this is where it comes from. Underneath all disease states, you will find messed up blood sugar and a messed up intestine. And the reason we call it a triangle is because the body stress system also gets involved. So the second that's one of the main reasons. There's two main reasons for this SIBO condition. Number one is poor gut motility. The second one is a condition called dysbiosis. So we had dysglycemia, meaning messed up blood sugar, dys for messed up, glyce for sugar, emia for blood. Dysbiosis means messed up gut bacteria. Dysbiosis and dysglycemia are the two major causes of small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which in turn is the major cause of leaky gut, which in turn is the major cause of all chronic health challenges. So why do we have dysbiosis? Lots of reasons. Number one, poor food choices. This is where the FODMAPs foods come in. Your FODMAPs foods are going to be mushy fruits, mangoes, bananas, nectarines, peaches, fruits that have a lot of mush to it, figs. Dried fruits are especially problematic. And people who have SIBO or people, they may not know they have SIBO, but they have gas and bloating and distension, discomfort, know that if you eat a lot of dates or raisins or figs or dried fruits, that can make the problem much worse. So dried fruits are big problems. Mushy fruits in general are big problems. Onions can be a problem. Garlic can be a problem. Also, and this is very important, I'm going to say now, grains can be problematic. The reason this is important is because when we talk about grains a lot, often, we talk about gluten, which is an issue, clearly. But if you have a FODMAPs problem, going gluten-free is not going to get you out of the woods. And this is why I always tell people, do a food diary and see what specific foods are your problems. Because a lot of people are eating gluten-free bread or gluten-free pasta or gluten-free pizza. And they don't realize that they're still getting the FODMAPs. Because gluten has nothing to do with FODMAPs. Gluten is a protein. FODMAPs are sugars. So you're not out of the woods just by going gluten-free. So eating FODMAPs, beans, by the way, are also notorious FODMAPs foods, above and beyond the fact that they have those lectins and plant defensive molecules that can wreak havoc on the body. So the best way to do this, if you have a FODMAPs problem, is do a food diary and see what specific foods you're having a problem with, and of course, then eliminate those foods. A second reason for one reason is poor food choices can lead to dysbiosis. A second cause of dysbiosis, i.e. messed up gut bacteria, is antibiotics, ingestion of antibiotics. And so obviously we can take antibiotics. We have to take antibiotics if you get a cold, or you have some kind of infection, you need antibiotics. But there's also antibiotics in dairy. There's also antibiotics in meat. There are also antibiotics in fish. So there's also antibiotics in the water supply. So just because you're not taking antibiotics intentionally doesn't necessarily mean you're not getting antibiotics. And speaking of water, chlorine is a notorious killer of bacteria. That's why it's in the water in the first place. So drinking tap water can also be problematic. So you've got antibiotics, you've got poor food choices, i.e. FODMAPs, and then you have a hidden cause of dysbiosis that nobody ever thinks about, and that is achlorhydria or hypochlorhydria, low stomach acid. One of the jobs of stomach acid is to kill bacteria. Low stomach acid can also lead to dysbiosis. So the three main causes of dysbiosis: poor food choices, i.e. FODMAPs, antibiotics, taken intentionally or taken unintentionally, and that includes chlorine, chlorinated water, probably fluoride too, has antibiotic properties. And then the stomach acid situation, achlorhydria, low stomach acid, three main causes of dysbiosis. So what do? Clearly, we got a problem here at the level of the small intestine. Well, there's three main causes of dysbiosis. There's three main ways that you can deal with the SIBO condition. Number one, you can starve the bacteria. And that's where FODMAPs comes in, or low FODMAPs diet comes in. And there's so many different foods that have FODMAPs, that have these FODMAP sugars in it. Just get on the internet or get a book, or there's hundreds of these foods. Think of mushy foods mostly, and dried sugary foods. Also syrups, high fructose corn syrup, agave syrup, sweeteners in general. All of these are going to disturb the bacteria or cause bacterial overgrowth at the level of the intestine. The second thing you can do is you can kill the bacteria. And you don't want to kill the bacteria with a drug, although there are people who will give drugs, antibiotics for it. But of course, then you run into problems with throwing off the bacterial balance. So the best way to kill the bacteria is number one with hydrochloric acid, betaine HCl. That's why I say the ultimate enzymes are such an amazing tool for us for a lot of reasons. The ultimate enzymes are great for pain, for inflammation. Obviously, they help you digest your food, and they also contain something called betaine HCl, betaine hydrochloride, which is a way of acidifying the contents of the stomach. I also suggest noni juice. Longevity has a great noni juice product, and noni can also help acidify the contents, acidify the stomach and kill bacteria. And then improving motility, the movement. Oh, I forgot to mention, one of the causes of poor motility is something called adhesions that can occur after surgeries, especially surgeries that women have, hysterectomies, reproductive surgeries. Also, obviously, intestinal surgeries can cause adhesions. Exercise is a great strategy for helping improve motility. Drinking enough water. I can't say that enough. Drinking enough water. For some reason, this is kind of interesting to me. Some people just don't like water. And so they'll actually stay away from it. They won't drink enough water. We have to treat our water like it's medicine, like it's a non-toxic drug. That's how effective water is, particularly for improving gut motility. And then and we'll talk about this here in a second, when we talk about products, one of the most important things you could put in your system for improving motility is the ultimate magnesium, or osteomag. Magnesium is incredibly valuable for improving gut motility, as are electrolytes and vitamin C. And we all know what products have that in it. That's our Beyond Tangy Tangerine. And then two things that are a little bit tricky for improving gut motility. One is probiotics, the nightly essence, the daily digest, the ultimate microbiome. We've got all kinds of tremendous probiotic products, but you got to be a little bit careful with probiotics when you have SIBO, because we've got a bacterial issue. So taking probiotics may cause too much bacteria. You just got to do it a little bit carefully. However, all the wonderful things that bacteria do in the intestine, good bacteria do in the intestine, you definitely want to start off with a probiotic supplement and see how you do. The same is true about fiber. Fiber is very, very important. And there's some people who say if you have SIBO not to use fiber. I don't buy that, because fiber plays such an important role, not only in improving gut motility, but also in the release of these fats that play an important role in the health of the intestine. So improving motility with exercise, improving it with water, improving it with fiber, improving it with your osteomag, improving it with all the different nightly essence and ultimate microbiome and daily digest and probiotic supplements that we have. Making sure you're killing your bacteria. I'll tell you about how you do that with products here in a minute. And then going low FODMAPs, staying away from FODMAPs. So let's talk about the products specifically that can help. We talked about the osteomag, must have, absolutely must have. Now, if you have loose stools or diarrhea, start off a little bit slowly with the osteomag. Second is the Beyond Tangy Tangerine for a couple of reasons. Number one, Beyond Tangy Tangerine contains electrolytes. Electrolytes are important for gut motility. And also, remember, with SIBO or with intestinal problems, you're going to be dealing with malabsorption of nutrients. So replacing those nutrients, particularly the electrolytes, are extremely important. And Beyond Tangy Tangerine is a must-have for all nutrients, but especially for electrolytes, and especially for what is, in my opinion, one of the most underappreciated of all the essential nutrients. This is something Doc has been talking about for a long time. Vitamin B1, also known as thiamine. It's extremely important for blood sugar. It's extremely important for gut motility and the digestive system. Very, very underappreciated as a digestive support nutrient. And of course, you'll find that in abundance in the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. Beyond Tangy Tangerine is unspeakably important. As a formulator myself, that is probably the most exquisitely formulated nutritional supplement you will ever find. And if you want to be a kind human being, let alone have a successful longevity business, you want to share Beyond Tangy Tangerine with everybody you know. It's that valuable. Ultimate enzymes are a source of digestive enzymes and betaine HCl, as we talked about earlier. And then there are also a few other miscellaneous things that you can use. If you can do dairy, the Fit Shake is a source of whey protein, which contains a very important nutrient for the intestine called glutamine. It's found in abundance in whey protein. The Fit Shake is a great way not only to get your glutamine and to get protein, but it's also a great way just to be able to help with reducing your snacking and reducing your intake of food because it's so filling and because it's so satisfying. And then also as an extra bonus nutritional digestive product, I absolutely love Dr. Ariaz's liver cleanse. Now, we didn't get a chance to talk about the importance of bile and the importance of the liver, but the liver and bile play a very, very significant role in the health of the intestine and vice versa. The health of the intestine plays a significant role in the health of the liver and in the health of the bile system. As I said earlier, bacteria in the gut will not only eat fiber and not only eat FODMaps, not only eat sugar, but they'll also eat bile. They don't actually eat it; they deconstruct it. So if you have an issue with SIBO, there's likely you're going to have an issue with bile, and that's another thing that the ultimate enzymes have in them is bile salts. So all health challenges, all chronic health challenges should be backtracked to something at the level of the intestine. SIBO is incredibly common. The major causes of SIBO are poor gut motility, stress, eating the wrong foods, particularly FODMaps foods, dysbiosis, diabetes, autoimmune diseases. All of these can be causes of SIBO. Antibiotics, poor stomach, insufficient production of stomach acid. Solutions kill the bacteria using. I forgot about the killer biotic. That's another one that you can use to kill gut bacteria. Is the killer biotic. Make sure you're killing off the gut bacteria. Make sure you're starving the gut bacteria. Improving gut motility with exercise and with water. Using things like Beyond Tangy Tangerine, which has the electrolytes and vitamin B1, ultimate enzymes. Anything that has probiotics in it, although you want to do that a little bit carefully, making sure that you're getting more fiber. Again, you want to do that a little bit more carefully. And then all of the digestive support products from Longevity, including the Dr. Ariaz's liver cleanse, the daily digest, and the ultimate microbiome. And then it wouldn't hurt if you could do lactose, if you don't have a problem with lactose, and whey doesn't have a lot of lactose in it, but some people will have a problem with it. If you can do it, the Fit Shake is a great source of glutamine, which is very helpful for the health of the intestine. All right, I'll be happy to take questions here if I didn't overwhelm anybody. If we have questions.
Wow, you are such a wealth of information. And folks, yes, he does speak quickly. So it is so nice that we have the replays. If you're out on YouTube or Rumble or Facebook, you can find those replays there on Critical Health or Critical Health News. And so much, Ben. We can really take charge of our biochemistry through food and supplementation. It doesn't require chemical interactions. So, and that's, folks, that's coming from a pharmacist. He knows a little bit about this. And I love the fact that we're able to share what he has in that amazing brain with all of you. So if you have questions and you would like to ask Pharmacist Ben some questions in regards to the digestive system, please raise your hand. And if you have questions out on YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble, you'd like to join us live right this instant, go to benandbeccazoom.com. That is benandbeccazoom.com. Or we do have some of our co-hosts that are monitoring the chat, so you can write your questions there in the chat. We'll try to get to them here on the show, and if not, we will get you answers after the show. But you can always go to dailywithdoc.com, use that contact option, and send us an email also. So Pharmacist Ben mentioned quite a few products, folks. Get back with the person that shared this program with you. And if there's nobody to thank, you can find all of those products on our website at dailywithdoc.com under the store. And you know what's really cool about the dailywithdoc.com is we have more of our Q&A shows that we've had in the past posted there. And we also have some special moments of truth with Pharmacist Ben that are posted on the website too. So lots of great information that's empowering, that allows you to be able to take control to better health. So Pharmacist Ben,
Yes,
that was absolutely incredible. You know, all the different things that affect our health, even the ones that are said to quote unquote be healthy, and they're actually adding to the dysbiosis of the system.
right. You got to be a little bit careful. That's why doing a food diary is so important. Just seeing how you feel after you eat specific foods. Everybody's got their own specific issues, and you got to certainly nobody needs donuts and potato chips and deep fried foods, etc. But there are foods that are like right in the middle, such as the FODMaps foods. Onions and garlic are typically medicinal foods, but they can also be high in FODMaps.
Wow. You know, we have, through the Institute of Holistic Health and the coaching program, we have a health evaluation system that goes through all of the questions, plus some that Dr. Wallach has asked people over the years in regards to their health that relate to the 4 areas of health. And it's amazing how many people rate high in that blood sugar category, but don't have diabetes. And you explained it perfectly, that it's dysglycemia.
Right, exactly. Just because you're not diagnosed as a diabetic doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have a problem.
Yeah, and that was one of my problems too. I was like pre-diabetic, but my health score in the blood sugar category was through the roof, and it was affecting my health in all areas. So lots of great information, folks. I hope that you were able to absorb and retain some of that. Again, you can watch it again and again and again as much as you want by subscribing to Critical Health News on YouTube and Rumble, and Critical Health on Facebook. Make sure you're following us. Hit that or smash that like button. Send us hearts, send us love, folks, so that more people can get information like this. And the more we have interaction on our channels, the more that our information is going to be showing up for other people. You never know, by that simple little action that you take, how impactful you're going to be in somebody else's life. Well, Pharmacist Ben, let's go to the first question that's up. And we have Debbie.
Hi, Debbie.
And unmute yourself.
Hi, good to see you again. You know, I recently ran into somebody that has a histamine problem with their digestive system, which
I meant to mention histamine. Yes, I meant to mention histamine. Histamine is found in citrus fruits, and bacteria, probiotics, good bacteria, actually make histamine. Histamine intolerance can definitely be associated with these kinds of digestive health issues. The best thing you can do for histamine is your CFX and your Zinc FX. Those are 2 of the most important longevity products for protecting against histamine. Vitamin C, everybody knows, is an antihistamine, and the CFX is wonderful as a histamine blocker. Likewise, zinc, the Zinc FX. Okay. So Zinc FX and CFX, and where's Rebecca? What's the name of the? I forgot what longevity product has quercetin in it, but quercetin is also a histamine blocker. And I forgot. I think it might be the Daily Digest, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm almost positive Daily Digest has it.
Daily Digest with the quercetin in the Daily Digest will also act as a histamine block.
Yeah, she can't eat any vegetables is her problem as well. So only
Any vegetables, you sure? Because some vegetables, not all vegetables are problematic for histamine.
well, she did a food elimination and she's really staying away from
all vegetables.
a lot of vegetables. I would say a lot because I don't sit with her.
I think it's worth experimenting with small vegetables because there's so many wonderful things in vegetables. It'd be a shame for her not to be eating vegetables.
So should she look at the FODMap?
Absolutely. It could be a FODMAPs issue.
Yeah.
She may be eating vegetables. She may be eating high FODMAPs vegetables and just assuming it's all vegetables.
Okay.
Right. And she may also find that if she uses the CFX or the Zinc FX or the Daily Digest or really any of the ultimate enzymes or any of the digestive support supplements we talked about, that she may be able to do vegetables. It'd be highly unfortunate if she couldn't do any vegetables. And I don't even think that's possible, but it's worth experimenting.
Okay. She's just very cautious because I guess she went with somebody else and they did a food elimination and she's just very cautious right now.
She should be cautious. She should be. And I always suggest caution is a great attitude to take, but caution doesn't mean completely eliminating it. It means using small amounts and then seeing how you do. And then maybe using small amounts of the vegetables with her ultimate enzymes or with her digestive support, or maybe doing Dr. Arias's liver cleanse and then trying the experimentation. There's lots of ways that she can experiment because it would just be tragic for her not to be eating any vegetables and definitely not good for her health.
Yeah, and she may have a blood sugar issue too. I'm not sure. So
it's almost everybody does. It's hard not to have a blood sugar issue in our culture.
Okay. Well,
I forgot to mention this. Processed meats are also a big problem. In fact, processed meats are among the worst things you could ever eat. Deli meats, bologna, salami, those kinds of things. Those can be big SIBO foods.
Okay. Well, it was very enlightening. Thank you today.
Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate that.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Debbie. And Pharmacist Ben, we have a number of products that have quercetin in it.
Okay.
Including our Cell Shield.
The Daily Digest, I think, too, right?
Yep, Daily Digest, Cell Shield. I cannot find myself to put myself on the screen. There we go. Our Hope, even our muscadine grapeseed, ultra body toddy. Folks, it's so important of a nutrient.
Quercetin's a great anti-COVID nutrient too, by the way. It's part of the COVID protocol.
Well, that's one reason why I like the Daily Digest. Because there's a
I like
lot
the
of
Daily Digest too. Yeah, and yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, awesome. All right, let's go to the next hand that is up. And Jane, go ahead and unmute yourself, my dear.
I am. Last time, the last lecture you talked about that you would address the I-26.
Oh my goodness. How could I forget about the I-26? That is, that's a great point. I totally forgot about that. Jane, thank you so much. Yeah, the I-26 is a fascinating supplement. Rebecca, you're supposed to help me. You're supposed to tell me about that. We were going to talk about I-26. I-26 is it's an egg powder that comes from eggs laid by chickens that have been given a very interesting antibody that kills bacteria. And that is, I can't believe I forgot to talk about that, because that could be one of the most important products you could use for SIBO. Because it's a natural antibiotic that kills excessive bacteria in the small intestine. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Jane. Do you understand how that's made? They give these chickens these bacteria that stimulate the production of antibodies. These antibodies then come into the eggs when they lay the eggs, and then they take the eggs and they dehydrate the eggs and they sell it as a powder. So the eggs are rich in antibodies that kill bacteria.
And
specifically bacteria in the intestine. I'm sorry I forgot about that one, because that is a very, very important product for SIBO. Thank you for that, Jane.
all right. I guess what's happened is I've had I guess just a breast cancer. It's just like surface removed from an operation, and they're saying then that I have to take the all the rest of the stuff, all the other poisons.
Well, I can't talk about that, but I can tell you that, and we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but one of the main breast cancer involves the hormone estrogen. Estrogen comes in different varieties. Some estrogen is super powerful and toxic, and breast cancer is associated with these super powerful toxic estrogens. The way these super powerful toxic estrogens build up is by being processed incompletely at the level of the intestine. The intestine is one of the main places where estrogen is processed and detoxified by a group of bacteria that are called, collectively, the estrobolome. Have you heard that term? The estrobolome? The estrobolome is a complex of bacteria that purify or detoxify estrogen. If you have an issue with the small intestine, I didn't talk about this because I didn't want to get too much off the beaten track, but since you brought it up, if you have small intestinal issues, you may not be processing your estrogen as well as you should. If you're not processing your estrogen as well as you should because of problems at the level of the small intestine. Does it make sense, Jane? At the level of the small intestine, estrogen is metabolized and processed. If you have intestinal issues, that may not occur, and toxic levels of estrogen or toxic forms of estrogen can build up. This is what causes reproductive issues as well as breast cancer. That you may know that estrogen is involved in the formation of breast cancer, but it's not so much estrogen as it is toxic estrogen that is not processed either in the liver or the intestine. So the intestine, bile, the liver, all of these are very important for keeping your estrogen healthy. And I'm not being as specific as because I don't want to get too much technicalities, but there's healthy estrogen and there's not healthy estrogen. Not healthy estrogen is a very powerful toxic form of estrogen that should be eliminated. But if you have a liver problem, a bile problem, or an intestinal problem, that may not happen. Mm-hmm. So there's a connection between liver health, bile, gallbladder, and the intestine, and things like breast cancer, ovarian cancer, PCOS, infertility, endometriosis, fibromyalgia. All these are issues that affect women. And by the way, most chronic disease affects women. Most autoimmune disease affects women. Most depression and hypothyroidism affects women. So there's a major relationship between estrogen and chronic degenerative diseases, especially reproductive and involving the reproductive system in the breasts. And that whenever something happens to women only, you want to be focusing on estrogen. Think intestinal health, liver health, and bile. And that, of course, means the gallbladder too. Do you have your gallbladder, by the way?
Yes.
Good. Do you know they take out over a million gallbladders get removed out of people's bodies every year? If you have your gallbladder taken out, as Doc likes to say, the ultimate enzymes are gallbladder in a bottle.
The ultimate enzyme. I have a friend who lost that did happen to her. I didn't know it was
gallbladder in a bottle. That's what Doc calls it, right, Doc? I think Doc's still on the call here.
Yep. That's it. The gallbladder.
Would this I-26 be?
Yes.
While I talked about that as an adjunct for me right now too.
Absolutely, he's 100% correct, and I completely slipped my mind. I-26, but that's absolutely vital for SIBO.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Let's go right over to Coach Rod. Coach Rod, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, Pharmacist Ben. How you doing?
Hey, Coach Rod.
How's it going?
What's up, man? Good to see you.
I have two questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
One is like one of my clients was telling me when they take certain products,
when he takes
the same category.
I'm sorry. Say that again. When he takes certain products.
Yes.
Yeah.
It triggered cold sores.
I had to see what kind of products. Cold sores are typically caused by a suppressed immune system, some kind of stress. Usually they're associated with stress, something that's going on in your life or some kind of physiologic stress. Ultimate selenium is the way to go. If you know somebody who has cold sores, keep them on the ultimate selenium and the zinc FX at all times. Never have them go off. Ultimate selenium and zinc FX. Nobody should go off of it. Ultimate selenium. That's one of the most important of the essential nutrients. I don't know why. I'd have to see what products. You can't say all products do it. I never heard of anything like that. Usually it's a sign of its suppressed immune system is when you get cold sores, but I don't know how you can have a product that would do that.
He told me when he take the state cardio.
We took the what?
The state cardio. He took
State cardio?
Yeah.
I don't know. Does he say every single time he takes a state cardio, cold sore pops up?
Mostly when he takes the state cardio, but he said
I can't see how that would happen. You know, that I don't know of a mechanism for that. I mean, I don't want to dispute his experience, but I don't really see a mechanism for that. Cold sores are caused by suppressed immune system. The cold sore virus lives in our cells. People who get cold sores always have that cold sore virus, but the virus is opportunistic. It waits for an opportunity. And that opportunity is when the immune system is suppressed. So people will find they get cold sores when they're under stress, which will suppress the immune system, or when they're eating certain foods like sugar foods that have an immune suppressant effect. Same with the shingles virus. Similar to that, people will get shingles when their immune system is suppressed, when they're under stress, or they're eating immune suppressing foods. And sugar is the most important of the immune suppressing foods. So I can't see a mechanism for that, although I don't want to dispute his experience, but I can't answer that.
Okay. Because I recommended the microbiome to help his immune digestion system.
Any immune issue, anything, you know, we didn't talk about this because there's just so much to talk about, but the center of the immune system is the small intestine. So all kinds of immune problems can arise from this whole SIBO leaky gut thing that we talked about. So yes, anything you could do to strengthen the small intestine, whether it's the ultimate microbiome, the ultimate enzymes, the I-26, the daily digest, the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, and osteomag, anything you could do to strengthen the health of the intestine, the small intestine will strengthen the immune system.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rod.
The next question is, one of my family members had a cut on their arm, and the recommendation they gave him steroids, and it affected his prostate.
Well, yeah, the steroid's a fatty gland, and it's very sensitive to hormones, especially estrogenic hormones. I don't know what you mean by when they gave him a steroid. I don't know what you're talking about when they gave him a steroid. Was it prednisone, an oral steroid or topical steroid?
They gave him a steroid when he had some trauma. He cut his arm with a chainsaw.
Oh, wow. They gave him an oral steroid?
Yes.
Yeah, that can definitely cause problems with the prostate. Absolutely. The prostate, BPH, benign prostatic hypertrophy, or even prostate cancer are associated with steroid hormones, especially estrogen or testosterone. So if he's taking a steroid hormone, that could definitely cause a problem with the prostate. I don't know of a one-to-one relationship, but I can see that they would be connected. Taking oral steroids is a huge issue, a huge problem. Sometimes you need them. And if he cut his arm with a chainsaw, you know, he may have some serious problems. He may need them, but they're not. You can't take a steroid drug, which is an extremely powerful medicine, for a long period of time and not expect to have some kind of imbalance in your own natural steroids. And that's just the way it is. Now, one of the best things you could do if you're using a steroid is you can a pharmaceutical steroid is you can use nature's steroid. Do you know what nature's steroid is? Your ultimate EFAs. Your ultimate EFAs are a natural nutritional steroid. They act like steroids. They get turned into steroid hormones. They have their own steroid-like activity. Ultimate EFAs are like natural steroidal substances. And they're natural immune boosters, natural anti-inflammatories. They'll give you the anti-inflammation that steroids give you without suppressing your immune system like steroids do. Now, I'm not saying, I don't know what this guy's condition is, so I'm not saying get off your drugs and get on the ultimate EFAs, but he should definitely be taking the ultimate EFAs with his steroids.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rod.
All right, great questions. Thank you, Rod. And I have some questions that are coming in. Pharmacist Ben, I have some questions here on Facebook and also out in YouTube. And Donna has a question. What can she do to stop severe acne on the face and dry spots on the skin?
Well, that's a huge question. because there's not just one kind of acne. And a lot of times what we call acne is really an immune condition in the skin, and that has to do with food. So, you know, we're a little bit off the beaten track here, but there's T-zone acne, which occurs in the middle of the face and the forehead. That's different from acne that appears on the cheeks and the side of the face. The kind of acne that people have when they have severe acne is on the cheeks and the side of the face and in the lymphatic system in the neck and right here at the jawline, or right where the neck meets, right underneath the ear area where you get boils and cysts. All of those need to be regarded as food issues, lymphatic issues, and intestinal issues. And by intestinal issues, I'm talking both digestive in terms of food and hormonal. So remember, the estrobolome is processing hormones at the level of the intestine, and many people who have intestinal problems also have boils and cysts and lymphatic problems. So if you want to cut right down to the chase, do everything we just talked about with SIBO and with the digestive system. Although, and is she here or is she on Facebook, did you say? Is this gal here?
Let me see if she's here with us. She's out on Facebook. I don't see she's in the.
So I'd have to see whether it's the T-zone version or and see if you can, if she's answering.
I can find out.
Yeah, find out what kind of acne it is. And what was the second thing that you said?
The dry spots on the skin.
Dry spots on the skin sound like eczema. And that should be considered to be a food issue, which could also be an intestinal issue, and malabsorption of fats and fatty vitamins. Those are the two major causes of eczema. Malabsorption of fats and fatty vitamins, that is your ultimate EFAs and all your fatty vitamins, and toxicity at the level of the intestine. And both of them are related to digestive and intestinal issues. So if this is the same person who has both the dry spots and the acne, then I would hone in on the small intestine and all the SIBO and digestive support things that we just talked about, FODMaps, eliminating problem foods, food diary, all the probiotics and the fiber, et cetera.
Okay. And then another question that is a little similar out on YouTube, wanting to know how they can treat boils on the back and shoulders.
Classic lymphatic issue. We didn't talk about the lymph, but in the small intestine, you have an opening, you have openings where fats enter into the lymphatic system. Fats are processed in the small intestine completely differently from everything else. When the wrong kinds of fats get into the lymphatic system, it can become clogged and cause immune problems. These immune problems will ultimately show up on the skin as boils. So you want to, especially on the back, you have you have a large concentration of lymph there. Any kind, they used to have, kids who use steroids or athletes who use steroids will get this condition called back knee. Have you heard of this condition, back knee?
Oh, yeah.
Back knee is breakouts on the back. And it's well known that people who abuse anabolic steroids will get back knee. In fact, that's one of the ways that high school coaches will check to see if their kids, their students are using, their student athletes are using steroids. They'll look for back knee. So any kind of back breakouts, acne in the back, boils on the back should be regarded as a lymphatic issue, which in turn should be regarded as an intestinal issue, either involving the wrong foods or SIBO, especially the wrong kinds of fats. So clearing out the lymphatic drainage, staying away from problem foods, specific problem foods, and working on all the using intestinal health strategies that we just talked about, including I-26.
And of course, the 90 essential nutrients being the core foundation.
That very good point. Everything we just talked about, the I-26, the ultimate enzymes, what else did we talk about here? The daily digest, the daily digest, ultimate microbiome. Those are all spokes on the wheel. The center is the mighty 90 essential nutrients. At the center, your big three healthy start pack, the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, the ultimate EFA, and your OsteoFX. That's the center of the wheel. Ultimate microbiome, daily digest, I-26, all of those are the spokes on the wheel. But yes, you're 100% correct. Don't take anything, ultimate enzymes even, don't take anything without taking that core. Nothing will work as well as it should if you don't have that core mighty 90 essential nutrients.
Well, and then you mentioned this ultimate selenium, which is in the brain and heart pack, which has an additional essential fatty acid.
Yes.
So
There's
what's
two
the-
essential, there's two EFA products. There's the Ultimate EFA and Ultimate EFA Plus. I'm not sure why they call it that because, well, I much prefer the Ultimate EFA Plus. I'll tell you why here in a second. There are things in the Ultimate EFA, particularly omega-3 fatty acids, that you get more of. But with the Ultimate EFA Plus, the reason I like it so much, and more than I like the Ultimate EFA, is because there's a specific fat in there called GLA. And GLA is stupendously valuable. And you get, I think, 19 milligrams of GLA, if I'm remembering correctly, as opposed to 4 milligrams of GLA in the Plus versus the regular EFA. And the GLA is great for so many different things, but especially for the skin and especially for women's menopausal issues, for hot flashes. So especially for hot flashes, but all menopausal issues. So I like the Plus better than the Ultimate EFA, but there is some things in the Ultimate EFA that you get more of compared to the Plus. So take both. And I think take both. Yeah. I think and you can't, you could take like 15 of those things. Don't worry about taking too many Ultimate EFA Plus. If you take 15, you can mix them up. And now, Rebecca, are they both in that? You're not saying they're both in that?
In the brain and heart pack, they are.
The EFA and the EFA Plus.
Yeah.
That's great.
And the Ultimate Selenium. So pretty fantastic. Now, going back to I-26, Debbie wants to know, is it good for histamines also?
Yeah, absolutely, not directly, but yes, it can definitely help with histamine intolerance for supporting the immune system.
Okay. And another question is, what type of fiber can you consume with SIBO, high histamine, and candida?
Those are all a little bit different. You're gonna have to see how you do. You can eat any fiber theoretically, but you have to see how you do because the bacteria live on fiber. So if you're eating fiber, you may be causing excess proliferation of bacteria. However, the opposite's also true. Eating fiber will have bacteria produce more butyrate, more of these fats that we talked about earlier, one called butyrate, I didn't mention that is very important for the health of the intestine. So you're gonna have to see how you do. That's the best way. I don't know, I would never say you don't want any fiber. Fiber is just too valuable, especially insoluble fiber, which clears everything out. The big problem is the mushy fiber, which is the soluble fiber. There's two kinds of fiber. You have insoluble fiber and you have soluble fiber. Insoluble fiber is roughage. It's the stuff that doesn't dissolve. It stays hard and it kind of acts like a broom to sweep everything out, including excess estrogen for folks for women who are dealing with estrogen issues, or men for that matter, who are dealing with estrogen issues. Soluble fiber swells when it contacts water. Sometimes it just dissolves in water, it doesn't even swell. And the soluble fiber is the kind that bacteria feed on. That's the big problem. Nonetheless, it's still so valuable that I wouldn't say completely eliminate it. Just see how you do. That would be my suggestion. I can't imagine that completely eliminating fiber from the diet is a good thing.
Yeah, I can't imagine with it sweeping and keeping things, and yeah.
And by the way, soluble fiber has a slowing down effect on gut motility. So if you're dealing with gut motility issues, too much soluble fiber may make matters worse. So you do want to kind of check things out for yourself. I don't know necessarily getting on a fiber supplement, but using foods that have fiber in them. The lower FODMaps foods, like for example, grapes and berries, have less FODMaps. Remember I said the FODMaps are mushy. You'll still get some soluble fiber in low FODMaps foods. So that might be the way to go to get fiber.
All right. Thank you so much for that. And out on YouTube, we have a question. Would a high protein diet be bad on the digestive system for someone who is trying to lose weight, build muscle at the same time?
A high protein diet be bad? No.
That's what the question is.
No. A high protein diet is not bad. The meat is typically not a problem for FODMaps, but processed meat is a problem. And foods that contain high protein, like vegan foods that contain, or vegetarian foods that contain high protein, like beans and mushrooms. Those can be high, those are high FODMAPs, and those can be problems. But meat and eggs are typically not problems, although there are some FODMAPs in dairy that might be an issue. But no, meat should not be a problem. And somebody who's wants to build muscle, they should definitely be using protein. And protein's very satisfying and very filling too.
Yes. Yeah. Don't take my meat away from me. Thank you. Thank you. Next question. Coming from YouTube, Harley's asking, can metabolites from SIBO enter the lymphatic system?
I know metabolites from SIBO, you're talking about bacterial pieces of bacteria. They call them LPSs or endotoxins. If that's what he's talking about, yes, that's exactly the problem that I was talking about earlier, how when you have inflammation at the level of the small intestine, those are the things, in addition to peptides, food particles, that can get into the blood and that can activate the immune system. And by the way, one of the most pro-inflammatory foods that you can eat, pro-intestinal inflammatory foods that you can eat, are fried fats and processed fats. So deep fried and processed fats can be especially problematic for leaky gut issues.
So another reason to stay away from those fried foods, folks. It is on
There's
the back.
And this is Doc talks about this all the time. This is one of the most important things, in my opinion, one of the most important things he talks about is the issue with fried fats. Fats are very, very problematic. You got to be really careful with your fats.
All
As
right.
important as they are.
And you can find that good foods, bad foods list on our website, dailywithdoc.com. So feel free to go there and get that whole list. You can save it, download it, share it with others, because folks, you focus on the good stuff. You don't stress about the bad stuff or let it even get into your shopping cart or on your plate at the restaurant. And that in itself is going to do you some good. And then you add in the 90 essential nutrients and some of these extra things for digestive health. You're on a great road to a better health journey to find your optimal best. I think it worked for me anyways. Okay. Worked for me. The next question coming from Repulsify out on YouTube is, how can I fix anxiety, depression, OCD? Are they sometimes related to gut also?
Oh, heck yes, absolutely. There's a major connection between, that's what I say, I talked about neurological issues and movement issues. Absolutely. Gluten is a huge problem. There's the guy wrote a book called Grain Brain. Have you heard of this?
Oh yeah, I have.
Oh, there's a major relationship between gut and brain, and gut and neurology. Now, depression and anxiety are a little tricky because we live in a world that is conducive to depression and anxiety. So turning off the news is one of the greatest health strategies you could ever use if you're interested in taking care of anxiety and depression. It's almost like there's a motive to keeping people depressed and anxious. It's called the news. That's what the news does, is it keeps you depressed and anxious. So it's tricky to just blame or to attribute strictly emotional issues like depression and anxiety to nutrition. But because the mind and the brain, the mind and the body are connected, it's not really a distinction between the mind and the body. It's somewhat arbitrary and semantic. Literally, there's not a distinction. Every time you think a thought, a hormone changes, and every time a hormone changes, it changes the way you think. So they're intimately related. And yes, the digestive system, these LPSs, they call, I didn't really talk about LPSs, but LPS stands for lipopolysaccharide, and it's components of these bacteria that enter into the bloodstream through a leaky gut. And yes, LPSs and peptides, food particles that get into the bloodstream through a leaky gut can cause all kinds of mental health issues, and toxins from incompletely processed proteins, ammonia included, that get into the bloodstream can affect the brain as well, and that can cause depression, anxiety, cognitive issues, etc. One of the best supplements that Longevity has that you could ever take for brain health issues involves a nutrient that is important, critically important for both the intestine and the brain. And deficiencies in this nutrient are associated with both dementia and digestive problems. And by dementia, I don't just mean Alzheimer's or full-blown dementia. It could be just memory problems, or it could be depression, or it could be any kind of brain health issue. And when I say digestive issues, it could be anything in the digestive tract. And that is the ultimate niacin, which in my opinion is the single most medicinal and therapeutic. I hate to say that, but there's a bunch of, I hate to say the most, but it's one of the most therapeutic and medicinal of all the essential nutrients, the ultimate niacin. And that's one on as far as the spokes go, that's one of the spokes that everybody should be on. It is an essential nutrient. The ultimate niacin is so important that it's the one vitamin that the body will actually make if it needs to. It won't make enough of it, but if you're completely deficient in niacin, your body will make some. That's the only vitamin that the body will actually produce on its own. So that's how important niacin is to the body. And the ultimate niacin is one of the most, in my opinion, is one of the most important of all the longevity formulations.
Well, and it has some of those extra additives in it that make it ultimate. It is not just a single nutrient. So I love the fact that longevity has put combinations, these synergistic blends together.
That's true.
That work better in the body. So we have another question coming from Facebook, and Kashan wants to know what happens if you inject a person with an overload of estrogen.
You mean like hormone replacement therapy?
Possibly.
Estrogen is on the FDA's known to cause cancer list, but the problem with estrogen is there's no such thing as estrogen. Estrogen is a family. There are molecules in the body that have estrogen properties. It's like a family of molecules. In fact, the estrogen family is found throughout nature. In fact, the family of estrogen is found not just in nature, but is synthesized in plastics. So estrogen is like a generic name for a chemical structure that activates the estrogen system in the body. So absolutely, if you take a bunch of estrogen, what's supposed to happen if you're healthy is that estrogen will get cleared out, specifically through the intestine and through the bowel movement involving bowel movements involving bile and involving the liver, involving the gallbladder, involving the intestine. But if any of these things are not operating like they should, the liver, you got fatty liver issues, or you got metabolic syndrome, a blood sugar problem, or you have an intestinal problem. If you're not processing your estrogen effectively, high levels of toxic estrogen can build up. So if you get injected with estrogen, number one, that estrogen itself could be toxic estrogen, especially if it's pharmaceutical estrogen. But even if it's regular estrogen, or they call it bioidentical estrogen, and you're not clearing estrogen effectively, high levels of what I call super estrogen, or chemists call catechol estrogens, or lay people call toxic estrogen, can build up. And that's where that's where all the health problems associated with estrogen come from. And by that, I mean fibromyalgia, endometriosis, infertility, autoimmune diseases. These are all estrogenic issues. Breast cancer, all the reproductive cancers, they can be the end result of accumulations of super estrogen, or if you prefer catechol estrogen, or if you prefer toxic estrogen, which itself will build up if you have a liver, you're not processing your estrogen well at the level of the liver, the estrobolome, you're not excreting, you're constipated. All of these can cause problems with detoxifying or purifying or eliminating estrogen. And we didn't talk about bile. I had too much to talk about, so I didn't talk about bile. But bile is critical for clearing estrogen. So if you're not making enough bile, you have a gallbladder taken out, your bile is sludgy because you're eating the wrong foods, you're taking drugs, prescription drugs, all of these can compromise the elimination of estrogen. And if you're injecting large quantities of estrogen, that's just going to compound the problem.
All right. I think we need to talk about bile next month.
Yes, I think so.
I think so, because it is so important.
Yes, yes.
We have another question wanting to know, how can we measure correct levels of estrogen? Is that only through blood work?
Yeah, or a saliva test you could do. It's tough to say because there's so many estrogens, and when they test for your blood or your saliva, they're only testing at most for 3, maybe 4 different estrogens, but there's so many different ones. It's best always to go by your symptoms If you find you're gaining weight, you're a woman, you have menstrual problems, you're a man, you have prostate problems, if you have intestinal issues, or if you have any of all those pathologies I just talked about that affect women, fibromyalgia is the classic because estrogen is so pro-inflammatory. Then you can suspect an estrogen issue. So you can have a blood test or you can have a saliva test, but there's so many different estrogens and they only test for a couple, so it's hard to say for sure.
Well, I can tell from experience, it's so nice not to have those issues anymore. So nice.
Yeah, because you're taking care of your supplementation and taking care of your diet.
Yeah, I don't even have
By
to
the
think
way, I should say this. I talked earlier about the ultimate EFAs being nature's natural anti-inflammatories, natural steroids. They're also nature's natural estrogen. Your ultimate EFAs are nature's natural estrogen. So you can get all your estrogen benefits from the ultimate EFAs. If you're a woman and you're thinking about hormone replacement therapy, or if you want to balance out your estrogen, if you have estrogenic issues, the ultimate EFAs may be able to help you. We talked about GLA, earlier as almost like a treatment for hot flashes and for menopausal symptoms. Well, GLA is found in the ultimate EFAs, but it's also actually made from the ultimate EFAs. So not only was this product so cleverly formulated that they added GLA, but your body will convert the omega-6 in the ultimate EFAs into GLA too. So that can have estrogen supporting and also overall women's health supporting effect.
Fantastic. Wow. Now you had mentioned quickly about weight gain, and we have a question here. It says, if you are trying to gain weight with SIBO and Candida, do whey proteins, are they suggested, or what are the
in other words, if you have SIBO and you can't gain weight, that's a sign of malnourishment. So yes, work on the SIBO, do everything that you can do for the SIBO, more protein and resistance training.
Okay.
But yes.
Okay. I had something covering part of the question. It says, if you are trying to gain weight with SIBO and cannot do whey protein, what are the suggestions?
You cannot do whey protein. I see what you're saying. If you're trying to gain weight with SIBO and you can't do whey protein, a couple things. First of all, work on the SIBO and you may be able to do the whey protein. That's first of all. So you might want to try that. Excuse me. Second of all, more protein is definitely important to find a protein that you can do. And then meat protein or egg protein, those are usually SIBO friendly. And then work on the SIBO. Because if you're not able to absorb your amino acids and peptides because you have SIBO, it's likely you're not absorbing the B vitamins or electrolytes or vitamin C or other nutrients. So working on the SIBO is the most important. It's going to be very difficult to gain weight if you're not able to absorb nutrients from the small intestine.
Wow. All right. Another question from Facebook. Ben, they're coming in and they're staying right on track with the subject. Wow. So Laura says, how can I deal with bad bacteria due to a lot of antibiotics?
You got to build them up again. First of all, are you still taking the antibiotics? I assume you're not. So just get off the antibiotics, that's for sure, and start building up good bacteria if you can. Now you got to be careful because you may have issues with bacteria in general, but because sometimes the antibiotics kill off some bacteria, but don't kill them all. They can kill off the good bacteria, leave the bad bacteria, because it's not just bacteria, it's the balance of them. So repopulating your gut with bacteria is probably a function of fiber and fiber foods. But again, you got to be careful because if you've got you don't want to be building up the bad bacteria, as well as probiotics, the ultimate microbiome, ultimate nightly essence, IP26 for sure. And then also fiber foods, but you got to be careful with those.
All right, thank you. And there's more. I mean, YouTube is keeping Sportis really busy, Pharmacist Ben. So here's another question. They want to know, how can I improve the resting heart rate?
Exercise and breathing.
Exercise and deep breathing. Okay.
Exercise and breathing and Wim Hof breathing. You guys, everybody should be doing Wim Hof breathing. And then exercise and also stress management, keeping your cortisol down, relaxation strategies. That's
All
the
right.
best way. Those are the three best ways, probably: exercise, breathing, and relaxation strategies.
Okay. The next question is, how does microbiome affect the brain?
Well, the microbiome, if the microbiome's not operating correctly, you're going to end up with leaky gut. If you have leaky gut, all kinds of stuff's going to leak into the bloodstream, including endotoxins and lipopolysaccharides that we talked about. And that can affect the brain. Literally, that stuff can go into the brain, cross the blood-brain barrier. These toxins can cross the blood-brain barrier. Secondly, malabsorption of nutrients at the level of the small intestine can affect the brain, especially your B vitamins and minerals like zinc, for example. Those can affect the brain. Then there's crosstalk between the intestine and the liver. And if your liver starts to become dysfunctional because of the dysfunctional small intestine, that can cause toxicity that can enter into the bloodstream, and that can also affect the brain. So via the liver toxicity, intestinal toxicity, and malabsorption of nutrients, those are the three main places where disturbed microbiome can affect brain health, cognitive functioning, neurological functioning, etc.
Okay. And so this is kind of a two-part question. And folks, if you've been listening to this program, I think you've gotten the answer to this, but let's hear it from Pharmacist Ben. The question is, why is it important to supplement, and what would happen if you chose not to supplement?
You'd be malnourished if you didn't supplement, and vice versa. Conversely, it's important to supplement so you don't get malnourished. You're not going to get everything you need from food. There's no way that you can get the kind of doses of nutrients that you need from food, even if you're eating a perfect diet. Just because there's not enough nutrients in the food, you have to eat too many calories to get the nutrients that you need. And one of the hallmark strategies for longevity and for good health is nutrient density. Nutrient density means lots of nutrients, less calories. A nutrient-dense food is a food that has lots of nutrition and not a lot of calories. So even if you were to eat nutrient-dense, you still wouldn't get the kind of concentration of nutrients that you can get from supplementing. Now, that being said, supplementing supplements. The word supplement means to add to. So you're not going to live on supplements. They're going to supplement your diet. So if you're not supplementing, you're missing a wonderful way to get concentrated amounts of nutrients to go with your foods. Secondly, if you have any malabsorption issues, you're not going to be able to get the nutrients out of the foods. So if you're not making enough stomach acid, you're not making enough digestive enzymes, you have SIBO issues, you have Crohn's disease or problems with a disturbance at the level of the intestinal lining or wall, in the cells that line the intestine, you can eat all the quality food you want and you're not going to get the nutrients out of them. You're not going to get the advantage of the nutrients. So number one, supplementing supplements adds to your food so you can eat less calories and get quality nutrition. And number two, if you have any kind of malabsorption issues, it doesn't matter what you're eating. You're going to be deficient. You're going to be deficient in micronutrients just because you're not absorbing them. Remember, there's two kinds of nutrients, by the way, and we haven't talked about this in a while. You got the big nutrients and the small nutrients. The big nutrients we call macronutrients. Those are nutrients that you need grams of or ounces of. Then there's the micronutrients. Those are the nutrients that you need micrograms or milligrams, very small amounts of. Your macronutrients are proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. You need to have those. But your micronutrients are also important, and those are the ones that are compromised, whose absorption is compromised significantly if you have any of these digestive health issues that we just talked about. So you need the micronutrients to be able to take advantage of the macronutrients. The protein and the fats and the carbohydrates require the vitamins and the minerals to access the energy from. In other words, this is how I like to look at it. Protein, fats, and nutrients are like the logs on a fire. They have all the energy in them. The micronutrients, the vitamins and the minerals, those are like the spark that lights the fire. They're the magical pixie dust that allows the body to access all that energy that's stored in the protein and the fats and the carbohydrates. Without the micronutrients, your body can't take advantage of the macronutrients. This is why, by the way, people find that when they start to supplement with Beyond Tangy Tangerine and the Healthy Start Pack, they don't eat as much. They get more bang for their buck. In other words, if you have enough micronutrients, you don't need as much macronutrients because you're getting more value from your macronutrients, which is why people will lose weight when they start the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. It's one of the most important, one of the most noticeable things about the Beyond Tangy Tangerine is people lose weight and they don't feel like eating as much because now they're able to access the energy from the macronutrients, from the proteins and the fats and the carbohydrates. Conversely, if you don't have the micronutrients, either through malabsorption or eating the wrong foods, you're going to eat this protein, fats, and carbs, and guess what's going to happen? Not only are you not going to get the energy from them, but your body's going to stash them away. And we have the body has a special compartment for storing all that protein, fat, and carbohydrate that we eat that's not being taken advantage of. You know what we call that compartment? We call it our fat butts. That's what that compartment is. So our body fat many times is caused by excess amounts of protein, fats, and carbs that we're ingesting because we're not getting the amount of energy we can because we're deficient in micronutrients, which is why you start taking micronutrients, you start to lose weight.
Okay.
Does that make
That's
sense?
something to think about, people, especially us ladies that have a little bit on the backside. Something
It's
to think
not just
about.
on the fat. It's not, I'm just teasing about the butts. It can also be the belly fats. That's what causes belly fat too.
Okay.
There's two kinds of fat. So you got the gynoid fat, which is where women get it. That's the hip fat and the butt fat. And then there's the abdominal fat that men get, the android fat. That's the kind of fat that men get around the belly. And by the way, belly fat and fat in general produce estrogen. So the more fat you're carrying, the more estrogenic you're going to be. I call that the Santa Claus effect in men.
Okay, so then with that being said, let's talk about the connection between the estrogen and the extra fat, and then
No, we
EFA.
can't talk about everything.
Okay, well, we're gonna have that as another conversation. But I have one more question and then one more hand, and then I know you've got to go.
Yes.
So, how can we motivate ourselves to stick to daily supplementation when we feel healthy?
You know, how can you motivate yourself? That's a really interesting question. If you feel healthy, first of all, it doesn't necessarily mean you're healthy, but even if you are healthy now, you might not be healthy in 10 years or in 15 years. It's an insurance policy. It's hard to say. That's like saying, how do I, my house is fine. Why do I need house insurance? My car is fine. Why do I need car insurance? My car drives fine. I don't need car insurance. Well, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. This is This is the best insurance there is. And even if you're healthy, yes, you're right. That's a good point because we always talk about this as regards to people who are not healthy. But yes, whoever asked that question asked a really interesting question. What if you are healthy? Well, think of it like an insurance program. Think of it like a longevity, like an illness insurance program and a longevity insurance program. This is a way that you can assure that in the future you're going to stay healthy, and in the future you're going to have a longevity, a good longevity, a healthy longevity. Yes, you're right. If you're healthy, it's harder to motivate. I can see that. But think of it like an insurance policy. Not only that, but you don't know what you don't know. So you may think you're healthy, but you don't know how healthy you could be. You may be leaving health on the table. And that's one thing that we have to understand as distributors and as also as patients and as people who have families and loved ones. We are leaving health on the table. We are leaving it. We're saying we're okay when we could be better. We're leaving good health on the table. And that's where, people say that the recommended daily, this is where the whole recommended daily allowance thing comes from. The recommended daily allowance for vitamin C is like 100 milligrams. Well, yeah, 100 milligrams will keep you from getting scurvy. That's great. So your teeth don't fall out of your head and your blood vessels don't explode and your bones don't turn to mush if you have a small amount. But you're not going to have enough so that you can fight diseases, or that your heart can be able to withstand stresses, or that your bones can be able to be, your bones and muscles and connective tissue can build when you come home from the gym or after an exercise. You're leaving good health on the table, and you don't know what you don't know. So you may feel that you're healthy, but you could be healthier. You may feel like you have energy, but you could have more energy. You may feel like you have a resistance to disease, but you may have more resistance to disease. So I see it as an insurance policy, and that you're right. If you feel healthy, it might be harder to motivate yourself, but advance yourself, a year, 2 years, 10 years, 15 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. I don't know how old you are, but advance yourself to the future. And what you're building now may provide you with disease resistance later and even better, increased longevity.
That's a great answer.
Okay.
I would
you,
say
Rebecca.
Dr. Wallach would say, you get an A++++.
Okay, yeah. Well, we want to tell people that whole idea of leaving health on the table by following this disease model where it says, I don't have a disease, so I'm good. It's not that you don't have a disease. Health is not the absence of disease. Health is feeling explosively energetic, where you just want to bound out of bed and you stay up late and you go to bed and you wake up early and you only need 5 hours of sleep and everybody else is getting sick and you're fine. And you don't have, it's not just not having a full-blown disease. It's feeling awesome and great. And that's how we want to look at health. And even if you're feeling good now, because you don't have a health challenge, it's very possible you could be even feel even better. You could be feeling even better.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right. Let's go to Ross. Ross has been patiently with his hand up. Ross, go ahead and unmute yourself. You're on live with Pharmacist Ben.
Hi, Becca. Hi, Ben. How are
Ross.
you?
Hey, Ross.
Good to see you again, and very happy to be back and ask you a question.
Yes,
I
sir.
talked to you, Ben, back in January, I believe.
Yes.
And my issue that I brought up was about enlarged prostate.
Yes.
So you recommended to take a supplement called beta-sitosterol.
Yes, and the prostate.
Yeah, and saw
Ultimate EFA.
and Ultimate FA. I've been taking the Ultimate FA for the past year plus.
Yeah.
And omega-3s and all this kind of stuff. So I just want to tell you that shortly after you told me to take these supplements, I've seen an increase different in my condition. My PSA is back to normal. I believe it affected my PSA because back in December, my PSA value was 5.0. It's now 3.9.
All right.
And I don't have the issues at night. It's just incredible.
Pay it forward. Tell all your friends.
Yeah, I've been telling them, and a couple of them, they are doing exact same thing.
Thank you. That's
so,
beautiful.
And I have to say thank you. So
thank you, Ross. I appreciate you saying that.
Thank you.
That it wasn't me. It was you. It was your body. You gave your body the right things. Your body did the work. I helped you, told you some things. So I appreciate you saying thank you. But I want you to know, everybody to know, that's what's possible. People, we all are capable of reversing our health challenges, no matter what we're being told. So God bless you, Ross. Pay it forward. Tell everybody.
God bless you. Thank you. I appreciate that, man.
Thank you.
Brother.
I appreciate it.
I actually I have 1,000 different questions, but because I know the time is short, I'm just going to ask you 999 questions.
Okay.
So one next time I'm going to talk about my other issues, but today I like to talk about my mom. She's 78,
okay,
and for the past year she's been suffering under vertigos.
Suffering what? I'm sorry, say it. Vertigo
business. Yeah. And she's been going through all kind of tests. Everything came out normal.
Okay, so of course she's normal then.
Yeah, she still has this
vertigo.
Vertigo. Yeah.
All right, let me tell you a couple things. First of all, does she, excuse me, does it get worse when she stands up out of a seated position?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Okay, does she bend down and pick up something and stands up and feels a little woozy, that kind of, yeah. Okay.
Oh, very much, yeah.
Okay, all right, so what she's dealing with is a combination of heart and adrenal issues, and there's probably some other inflammation going on, but let's just take care of the heart and adrenal issues first. So the first thing is just to show her what a miracle her body is and some of these health strategies are. The next time she's in a seated position and she wants to get up quickly, have her not get up quickly, but do slow, deep breathing before she gets up.
That's what I've been telling her, yeah.
Okay, so what happens is, have you ever heard of a condition called POTS, P-O-T-S?
No, sir.
All right. POTS stands for postural, that's your posture, orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. Does her heart race, by the way? Does she notice her heart is racing at all?
She's taking a medication called that. Because of that, the doctor gave her medication called metoprolol.
Metoprolol, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's taking
that slows her heart down. That slows her heart down. But it doesn't slow her heart down by saying, heart, why don't you relax now and slow down? It slows her heart down by poisoning it. That's how these drugs work. So they poison the heart. So what she needs to do is she needs to figure out how to take care of the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands are her stress glands. Also, as we get older, especially as women get older, the adrenal glands have to make hormones because the ovaries aren't. So the adrenal glands are doing extra duty. So she has to start working on the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands are very responsive to blood sugar and digestion and oxygen and psychology. So anything she could do, number one, to relax psychologically. If she's a type A person, she's a stressful person mentally, she's freaking out about this and that and the other. Anything I'm not going to go there because that's, I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist. I don't want to go there, but just want to let you know that's important. The second thing that's important, the next thing that's important is the respiratory system, and that's the breathing. So she should be practicing breathing exercises, particularly after she does she does movements, or before she does movements, I should say. So before she gets up, slow breathing. Before she has takes a walk or does any exercise, practice breathing, but just breathing anyway. I love this guy called Wim Hof. I know I've talked about him before. On YouTube, you can do Wim Hof breathing. This will add years to anybody's life, but including hers. Wim Hof breathing. And then the third thing that the adrenal glands are responsive to is the blood sugar system. And so everything you can do for treating her like a diabetic. Very likely she has dysglycemia, even if she hasn't been diagnosed as a diabetic. So the healthy blood sugar pack. And then work on the digestive system, because there's not only is there a major connection between the digestive system and the stress system, but it goes the other way around. So there's a major relationship between the stress system and the digestive system. It's a big circle. So digestion will affect her adrenal glands, and her adrenal glands will affect her digestive system. It's a big circle. Okay. So working all the things that we just talked about with SIBO, if she has any digestive, chances are she has digestive issues. Work on the whole SIBO aspect of things that we just talked about. And then there's also, Longevity has some great adrenal products just for the adrenal glands, particularly the de-stress. So adrenal support, this is an adrenal issue largely. Digestive system, all the things we just talked about. Blood sugar system, healthy blood sugar pack. Respiratory system, the Wim Hof breathing, all the psychology stuff that, relaxing, just mentally relaxing, activating what we call, we talked about this before. You have a sympathetic stress nervous system, a nervous system that's fight or flight. That's the emergency nervous system. And then you have the relaxation nervous system. That's the parasympathetic nervous system. Activating the parasympathetic nervous system is one of the best things you could do for the adrenal glands, because the adrenal glands are your fight or flight glands. They're sympathetic. So by activating the parasympathetic nervous system, you put you suppress adrenal activity. You calm down the adrenal glands. So how do you do that? Slow, deep breathing is one way you can do that. Mental attitudes, grace, gratitude is another great way to do that. Warm water can do it. Warm baths can do it. What other things you can do? Muscle relaxation can do it. Progressive muscle relaxation can do it. Anything you do to activate the parasympathetic nervous system will help with the adrenal glands. So you got many mechanisms there, but the one you want to focus on is the adrenal glands. The part of the body you want to focus on is the adrenal glands.
Okay, thank you. And would you recommend her to stop taking this pill?
I can never recommend that. I would never do that to a doctor. Listen, I have a lot of friends who are physicians. They mean well. I'm not going to beat up on doctors. It's the model, the paradigm that's wrong. The doctors themselves are trying to do what's best. They're not like saying, how can I kill my patient? How can I make my patient miserable? How can I hurt her? They're not saying that. They're thinking that. So it's not my place to get in between your mother and her doctor. I can't do that. However, I can tell you as a pharmacist that the drug she's taking works by poisoning the heart. And I don't know, doesn't sound like a good thing to me, to poison the heart. So if you can think of another way to take care of her heart, her cardiovascular issues, there's probably other ways to do it. Healthy heart, the healthy heart pack or the healthy blood sugar pack. All of these are great ways that you can do it naturally. But I would never tell you to tell her or tell anybody not to take their drugs. But if she doesn't want to take her drug, tell her doctor, I want to do there's other things I want to do.
Right. Thank you very much. Just in support of what you earlier said regarding the question, why supplementations? Actually, just to your support and to the viewers' information, I heard Doc Wallach saying a while ago that we don't know how long we live. We are not taking supplements in order to have a longer life. We are taking the supplements to live a pain-free life. Yeah. So, and I believe this is wonderfully, I believe that's the wonderfully said.
Yes.
And
yes.
You're taking the supplements to feel good.
Yes.
Not to, and as you said, it's an insurance. And I firsthand witnessed myself ever since I've been taking your or Dr. Wallach's advice for the past 4 years. Taking a supplementation, I feel a different person at all. So it's just great. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, we get by. We're setting the bar so low on health that we're leaving energy on the table, vitality on the table, joie de vivre on the table, enthusiasm on the table. You start supplementing, start putting these things into your body. You just the meter goes like this. We're satisfied with it over here, but we could be over here.
Absolutely.
And that's what supplementation can do for us.
Yeah.
All right, you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Becca.
God bless you, Ross.
Don't go anywhere because my phone is blowing up. YouTube's blowing up. Facebook is blowing up, wanting to know, Ross, what did you take to help lower and get a normal PSA? Pharmacist Ben, what did you recommend to him?
Ben, don't tell him. Charge him money. Don't tell him.
I know, Ross. You tell her.
I'm just kidding.
Buddy.
I'm just kidding.
No, Ross, tell everybody. You tell people. I can tell you what I think, but you did it. You should tell.
Is that okay if I show it what I'm taking?
Are they longevity products?
Unfortunately, no. It's called beta sitosterol, and I'm taking 1,000 milligrams. Yeah,
it's in the ProstFX. Yeah, ProstFX. Here's how you want to do it, and you're right. Beta sitosterol it's in the ProstFX. ProstFX, fats, ultimate EFAs, especially the omega-3s and the ultimate EFAs, and focus on fats, all the fatty nutrients and fat, dietary fats. Staying away from the bad fats, staying away from the sugars. Treat yourself. Get on all the ProstFX. Get on all the blood sugar nutrients. The healthy blood sugar pack. And mostly treat the prostate as a fatty gland and as responsive to fatty nutrients and as responsive to, in a negative way, to the wrong kinds of fats.
I'm taking 2,000 milligrams of the beta sitosterol a day.
Yeah.
And
did you notice? Ross, did you notice were you urinating were you going to the bathroom in the middle of the night a lot before?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And how did it cut?
Yes.
Before, and now you're not going to the bathroom in the middle of the night.
Not at all. And I've been honest with you. Probably once or twice a week, only one time. In the middle of the night. In the middle of the night. Yeah. Otherwise, I just sleep through. It's just incredible. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, that's incredible, amazing. Right? For you ladies, you don't have any idea. That is the most miserable thing when you got to go to the bathroom like 5 times in the middle of the night. And once you start taking your prostate, get on the ProstFX and the ultimate EFAs and all the things we're talking about, that doesn't happen anymore. Nice job. Okay. Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Becca. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you, Becca.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Ben. And for ladies, I remember those days when I would sneeze. Oh, yeah. So I don't know if men had that problem or not. Men don't have that. That's true. So we have our own. But such an informative hour and 45 minutes. Oh, hour and 53 minutes, Pharmacist Ben. Thank you so much. Thank you for what you're doing. And thank you to all my longevity family. I appreciate all you guys. And Dr. Wallach, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for what you've done and what you're doing. Dr. Judy and Mike and Ross and Coach Rod, of course. Thank you so much, everybody. And yes, Becca, you're awesome. You rock.
See you next
As
month.
one of our mentors and leaders within the Longevity family, I can't thank you enough, Pharmacist Ben, for being here with us and standing there next to Dr. Wallach and promoting the importance of supplementation, folks. You're leaving stuff on the table if you don't think it's important. And like Ross said, may not be about living a long, long life, because only God knows our days numbered on this earth, but being able to thrive with our time here on earth, I think is the most important thing. So thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Becca. Bye, everybody.
I'm going to get my co-hosts on the screen with us so you can see who we have today. How come I'm not seeing everybody? There we go. And Marilyn. So Pharmacist Ben, this is part of our daily team, which is also our Q&A team. And we can't thank you enough for allowing us to be able to support you as you are being an amazing support to a community that, with us helping our own communities together, we are helping people around the world. And there's nothing more gratifying than that. So thank you.
Thanks, Becca. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye, Pharmacist Ben. And folks, just as a reminder, this program is for informational purposes only on the importance of nutrition. The FDA requires us to let you know that our products are not meant to treat, diagnose, cure any condition. And we are not here to take the place of your primary care physician. But folks, you are an empowered individual. Take that empowerment serious and be intentional when it comes to what you put in your mouth and what you don't put in your mouth. Because what you put in your mouth can either damage or rebuild, create or destroy. It's your choice. So what is your choice? Get back with the person that shared this program with you. If there is nobody to thank, we do have a call team standing by at 855-949-3377. We also have our website at dailywithdoc.com. Use that, contact us. I know there were so many questions that we did not get to, so many names of people that I've not seen on any of our streams today. So I am so glad that we're reaching a whole new crowd. We want to make sure that we're meeting you where you're at and that you're getting the answers that you are seeking for. So please go to that dailywithdoc.com, sign up for our newsletter. With that sign up, there is a place where you can submit your questions. I'll make sure that it gets to one of our certified health coaches and get the answer based on Dr. Wallach's recommendations to you on how you yourself can take better control of your health journey, folks. So thank you once again. That call team number again is 855-949-3377. My name is Becca Dukes, and as the Director of Student Services for the Institute of Holistic Health, we invite you to even dig deeper into the 4 areas of health, how they're affected by nutrition, and the solutions that you yourself can take to correct those deficiencies. Go to coachwithbecca.com and you'll find more information about our Certified Holistic Health Coach course that's available to anybody. Even if you want it for just your own personal knowledge, that's fantastic because it starts with us. And then as you are encountering people within your family, within your community, and together, as we're reaching our communities, like I said, we're reaching around the world. So until next time, bye for now. Oh, and I want to say thank you to my coaches because they did a fantastic job. Marilyn, with all of the information she was putting in the chat, that is one of the biggest advantages of being here live with us on our Zooms, is being able to see all of her dictation and how she takes the information that's being shared and puts it in the chat. We have Coach Rod that's out there helping with all of the different platforms, and also a backup to AJ, who is making sure the streams are going strong, who is a backup to Ruth Ellen, who wasn't able to be here with us today, but boy, you guys kept them busy. So thank you so much for doing that. They've got to earn their keep, right? I love you guys. Bye for now.